Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Music Lab podcast. My name is Dogg, and I'm so excited to be back with all of you for another episode of the podcast. To my left is Mr. Tavis from the band Houseplant. Welcome, Mr. Tavis. How are you, sir?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
This is probably the first time someone has called you Mr. Tavis in a while, huh?
I I think so. Yeah. Well, some of my kids' friends call me Mr. Tavis every once in a while. So.
Okay, all right, cool. So you are hailing all the way from Louisville, Kentucky. Born and raised, or how long have we lived in Louisville?
Born and raised all my life. Yeah.
Awesome. I want to get into Louisville, and I want to get into so much more. But before, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe to our YouTube channel, our social media pages. That helps us. That helps the bands like Houseplant. Also, check out our sponsor, RAWR Outfitters. That's RAWR, outfitters.com. Don't just wear RAWR. So, Mr. Tavis, Louisville, Kentucky, born and raised. I have not been to this city. So, if you were a travel agent or a real estate agent, sell me on what is great about Louisville.
Um, it's it's a big enough city that it has just about everything that you want, but it's not too big. Traffic's not too bad. It's got a great music scene. Um, It has a great radio station, public radio station here that puts on a monthly free concert down on the river, and that's really cool. I don't know. It's got great beer. It's got lots of things that are going for it. Yeah.
And you're relatively like your proximity to other cities. I mean, you're kind of centrally located, right?
Yeah, that's another good thing about it. I mean, Cincinnati's maybe an hour and 15 minutes. Indianapolis is hour and a half. Nashville, 2.5. Chicago, you can get there in just over 4 hours.
Are you a big fan of Chicago?
Um, I haven't been to Chicago in a long time, honestly.
Okay.
It's probably been a good 15 years, but last time I was there, I had a good time.
Be great to tour there, right?
Yeah, they're trying to get us there.
Okay, nice, nice, nice. So let's talk about, first of all, how did the name, like, why Houseplant for the name of the band?
For a couple different reasons. I love plants. Um, I've got lots of plants in here in the house, and also when the band was formed, it was during the pandemic, and we were all planted at the house, so um, we were house planted.
So we started well, your first show was in May of 21, but when did you guys actually start as a band and talk about the formation of the band?
We had well, it started with I wanted to start writing some music. I'm primarily a drummer and have played in bands for 30 years playing drums. And I did have a bluegrass band with my brother, and I played mandolin in that. But I got this new, at the time, electric mandolin, and I thought it'd be real cool to run it through a whole bunch of pedals and write some songs and put a project together around that. So um, Tommy, who is the bass player, he's actually he works with my brother, and they would come over to the house, and we'd always watch Kentucky basketball games. And
Go blue.
yeah, yeah. They Tommy came over for 2 years, 2 seasons watching Kentucky basketball games. And I think he said like 2 words in those the whole 2 years. He'd just come over, watch the games, he'd go home, real quiet. Um, and then one day after the game was over, my brother and I we started playing some music, and my brother plays bass and guitar, and I can't remember if he was playing guitar and then Tommy grabbed a bass, or if it was the other way around. But so we played music, and then the next time, I think the first time Tommy played guitar and my brother was on bass, and then the next time Tommy ended up playing bass, and I was really impressed with like his feel and the way he played bass. So I was like, would you be interested in starting this project? I have some songs that I've been writing, and I want to start an original project. So I asked Tommy first, and he was all about it. He had been in a couple bands before, but like most of the other guys in the band, I had known through like more of a jam scene here in Louisville, and Tommy was kind of more on the indie side of things. Um, but he was all about it, and we started writing songs together, just he and I getting together, and he had some songs as well, so we were throwing ideas off each other, and that was about 2 months before the pandemic started. And so that was March of 2020
Yeah.
when the whole world shut down. We were like, oh man, we just started this project. We were so excited to get it going, and now we can't even get together and write songs. But when we found out the world wasn't going to end, and we could start getting together again, like we first started getting together on the patio, and we just hang outside, 6 feet apart, whatever. Um, and then we moved it into the garage, and that went on for a few months, and then we decided, well, let's start adding pieces to this. And Mike, our guitar player, I've known him for a while, played in other projects with him. Called him up, asked him the same thing. Hey, have this new original project going. Original music takes a long time. It takes, a lot to work up an original piece as opposed to just learning a cover song that the blueprint is already there. And I was like, would you have time to commit to this project? I'd want to get together at least once a week. And he was all about it too. So he started coming. And then we needed a drummer. So Jeremy and Mike, they are from Owensboro, Kentucky, originally, and went to school there, high school, and then moved off to the University of Kentucky, went to college there together. And then I don't know what the time frame was, but eventually Jeremy ended up moving out. He lived in Kansas City for a while, lived in Phoenix for a while, but he had just moved back to town. And Mike's like, well, I know this drummer. He lives up the road, pretty close to you actually, and he might be interested. So we called up Jeremy, and he was out of town at the time, but when he got back in town, he started coming over, and I was like, man, this is going great. Now we need keyboards. And Chris, I'd known him from around town as well, so he started playing with us. So yeah, that was all pretty much during 2020, during the pandemic. And then our very first gig was May 14th of 2021. So yeah, that's how it all started.
So the electric mandolin, what was your inspiration, not A, to play that instrument in particular, and then to, like you said, use the pedals to get that unique sound that you get?
Yeah, I don't I don't know what the inspiration was really. Yeah, previously I'd played in a bluegrass band and very traditional um, mandolin acoustic. Um, yeah, I just thought it would be cool for me. Um, Being a drummer, the mandolin it's very rhythmic, it's very percussive. It's like the snare drum of bluegrass music. Um, but I just thought it'd be cool to run it through a whole bunch of pedals and make some weird sounds. And I've always been into kind of psychedelic music, and I thought it'd be real cool. So um, I bought a bunch of pedals.
So Louisville, I'm going to assume, is not much of a hotbed for jam music, or am I wrong in saying that?
Um, I would say that you're wrong. Yeah.
Okay,
Um,
that's great. Just, you just seem like
no
it's always in the
offense, but
Northeast, right?
yeah, no, Louisville has a great music scene in general, and has a great jam scene. Um, our local hippie jam bar, Noah Tavern, that's where our first gig was. Um, they have they have music at least every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then sometimes through the week as well. But it's mostly jam music. I'd say the jam scene here is pretty strong. Yeah.
I mean, that's great. And what do you like attest that to, or is it just plain luck?
Yeah, I don't know exactly um, how it came about here in Louisville. Like you said, I'd say the jam scene is much more of a Northeast kind of thing. I guess you have bands like Widespread Panic, more Southern, and Allman Brothers, more Southern, and then you got the Grateful Dead that was from out west, but most of the jam bands come from the Northeast.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
I
Fish, Goose, Mo, yeah, I think Spafford, I think Spafford's from Arizona.
yeah,
The hotbed again, the hotbed of
yeah,
jam
yeah.
music. So, you guys then released the Live from the Greenhouse series, which, first of all, I think is a great title, especially being a band named Houseplant. Um, what was the inspiration behind that? I'm assuming, just like many jam bands, you want to show the new audience or new listener, your live set instead of like what you have studio. Is that kind of what you guys were thinking?
Yeah. But at the same time, it was during the pandemic, and bars weren't open, clubs weren't open. So we wanted to play, but we weren't able to play. So we just decided we would do a recording and put that out. We hadn't um, we didn't have much of a repertoire at that time. We were still working on that, but we had a few songs and we wanted to get them out there. So we just decided we were gonna video it and get it out there for people to see.
Yeah. So when you did it, what was your expectation? And then, like, now looking back at it, how do you look at it now? Do you look at it any differently?
Um, well, we've definitely grown as a band, and there are some things that I hear the songs and they seem like very early examples of those songs, which they they were. So yeah, I think they've developed. Um, I don't know if I do anything differently. Yeah, it was a cool experience. We had a bunch of friends who were on board to help us from the very beginning. So, they're all working cameras for us and doing the lights, and all those people are still with us. Like BJ takes photos for us. Noah does our videos. Rachel, she's our merch girl. Um, all they've been there from the very beginning, and we also have Corey Johnson, who was operating one of those cameras at the time. He does our visual, like when we put out studio tracks on YouTube, we just put a little visual video along with that, and he helps us on those. And so yeah, all four of those people were there from the very beginning, still with us now.
And all essential in their roles, right? I mean,
Oh,
for
absolutely.
you to have to do that would just be like it's so nice for me because I'm technically like I can get by, but like editing stuff like that, video stuff like that's just not my not my, it's not my lane, right? So
Yeah,
thankfully,
yeah.
like I finally met a guy that that's like his specialty, so he helps me out with all this stuff. But yeah, I feel you. It's nice to have those people in your corner.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about your fans. You have some, I would say, very, very loyal fans for, like I said, a band that's only been around for about 3 years. They're called the Succulents. You're
I
obviously aware of this, right? The fan page on Facebook. I mean,
am
talk
aware of
about
it,
like,
yes.
yeah, talk about your relationship with them and like, what your fans mean to you as a band.
Well, they are extremely loyal. A lot of them I've known for a very long time, just, as friends, and they've always supported me in whatever music project I had going. But yeah, then when Houseplant started, they, they were there, and we're always spreading the word, telling people about Houseplant. Um, and it's grown, and yeah, they decided they were going to start this fan page on Facebook and call it the Succulents. And Promise has the little saying, Promise sucks. And so, like, there was kind of a little play on that, like Houseplant sucks, and people are saying that kind of stuff. But yeah, we didn't have much to do with the fan page. They started it, but I think it's great.
So you as a band and you personally, what is your take on social media and how you separate the art from like the commodity? Because obviously you're trying to, obviously make a living out of this, but it's also art. So how do you kind of manage that with regards to social media?
Yeah, social media is crucial. I personally hate it, and if I wasn't in a band, I don't know as if I'd be on any social media. Instagram's all right, you throw out some pictures and whatever. I I hate signing on to Facebook and seeing any people arguing about whatever they can possibly argue about. It's very toxic. But no, it's very crucial in a band's growth. You gotta put the product out there and let people know about you. So yeah, like I said, I don't think I would be on social media if it wasn't for a band. What wasn't for Houseplant, but when Houseplant first started, I was doing most of the social media stuff. I still do a little bit of it, but Colleen, our manager, she does most of it now, and she'll kind of run a post by me, make sure this is how I want it to sound. But most of the time, I just let her handle it, and I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. So talk about your relationship with Colleen, how that came about.
Well, she's my wife, and
Nice.
she lives in the house here, and she's the most
You better not speak bad.
organized. No, no, I wouldn't. She is so organized. She like spreadsheets are her superpower. Um, she's a busybody. She just gets things done, and so it just kind of happened naturally. Really, I didn't even say, "Hey, do you want to be our manager?" or anything like that. I was just doing band stuff, and she was helping out, and it became more of a role for her. And yeah, I didn't even run it by the band really. Like next thing I know, Colleen was just our manager, and so. But she's great at it.
Yeah. So does everybody then have significant others, or is anybody single in the band?
No, everybody in the band's married. Everybody but Chris has kids. Um, yeah,
So how
we're kind
does
of
that, yeah, how does that play into then, you know, all of that, like
well,
touring, recording, all that?
yeah,
Yeah.
it plays into it very much. Huge. Yeah, we're all. I'm the oldest one in the band. I'm 50, and everybody else, I guess, um, Tommy and Chris are mid later 30s. Mike and Jeremy are mid 40s. We all have, like I said, significant others. We have kids in the band. We all have jobs, um, like 9 to 5 regular jobs that keep us from getting out there on the road and playing a whole lot. And even on the weekends, it's can be hard to get us out there because of the family side of it. Um, we're trying to branch out a little more. Um, the goal is to play a show on the weekends about every other week, maybe 2 gigs a month. Um, but even that can be hard sometimes. So um, yeah, we're just seeing how it goes right now.
Well, I mean, you're kind of in a unique position because you're not struggling per se, as a band, um, because you all have something to fall back on, but at the same time, you want this to progress. So you're kind of like, on the balancing beam a little bit, correct?
Absolutely. It's a blessing and a curse. I think it was a blessing through the pandemic that we weren't able to play it. It allowed us to work up our repertoire, develop songs, write more songs, have them develop. Um, but yeah, like not being able to play, get out on the road, that can be hard. I think a lot of bands can burn themselves out, burn the listeners out. Um, but at the same time, you want to get out there and play in front of new people and make new fans. But that's what we've used the internet for is to get our product out there like that. So
I mean, realistically, when you think about it, if you could pull off 20 shows a year, I mean, that's sustainable, like it wouldn't be two a month, but it would almost be two a month. You'd have a little bit of flexibility, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, you pick the right gigs. Festival gigs are great because you're exposing yourself to a whole bunch of new people. Festivals seem to work really well for us. So yeah, pick the right gigs and maybe it works out.
So let's talk about some festival gigs. You guys got to play, like your shirt, Bonnaroo.
Yeah.
I mean, some call it the granddaddy of them all, like Coachella can maybe have a little bit of acclaim, Lollapalooza as well. But like, of those three, like that's your kind of Mount Rushmore. Talk about the experience. Talk about when you got that phone call that you were playing Bonnaroo.
Yeah. I don't know. My mind is still blown from it. I cannot believe that. Yeah, we played Bonnaroo. We're 3 years young as a band. We've only played 40 something shows, and how well David Limentani, our booking agent, he's the one that got us in there. I don't know how he did it, but somehow he did it. Um, so yeah, he called us up and he was like, theoretically, if is the band available on this weekend in June? And we looked at the band calendar and we were like, yeah, it looks like everybody's available. Depends on what it is. And so he's like, all right, I'll get back with you. And Colleen and I started talking, and there were several theories of what it may be. And she said, I think it could be Bonnaroo. And I was like, Colin, you're crazy. There's no way we're playing Bonnaroo. Like, there's a million other things that I would have said before Bonnaroo. And I never believed that. There were a couple other festivals that same weekend that I was much more likely to think that was possible. But then a couple weeks later, um, I think how it happened was David texted Colleen and said, "Would the band be available to play Bonnaroo on that weekend?" And I think Colleen was in, a different floor of the house, and I heard her scream something, and I was like, "What?" And yeah, so we found out we were playing Bonnaroo, and I sent a band text out, and my heart was just like going a mile a minute. I could not believe it. I mean, it was just like, so I had to clear it with the band. We knew we were available, but like just to make sure everybody could do it. And I was like, there's no way we can pass up this. I mean, I don't care if, your kids graduating from what, like we can't pass up this gig. And, but everybody was available. And, yeah, there was just all this time leading up to it. And somehow it was a hard secret to keep. We weren't supposed to tell anybody, but it was hard, and we told a couple people, and it kind of got out there a little bit that so I would go see a show, around town, and people would come up to me and they'd kind of, so you're playing Bonner? I'm like, yeah, but don't tell anybody. And then somebody else would come up, I hear you're playing Bonner. Yeah, don't tell anybody. It was a poorly kept secret, but yeah.
So when did
So
they
the
tell you, or when did they ask you?
um to play Bonnaroo.
Yeah, 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 yeah. How long, like
So
in advance? Yeah.
yeah. All right. So we played the Who stage, which it gets announced far after the initial lineup. The Who stage is, the smaller acts that they bring on to showcase to people, get them exposure, people that are bands that they think could have potential or whatever. So I think, see, it was maybe Colleen would know. um, Maybe March or April or so when we found out. No, the announcement was in April. We found out in March sometime that we were going to play. So there was a good maybe 6 weeks of knowing, and all those little people whispering and stuff before the actual announcement came out for it.
So you go, you get there, like what is it like? I mean, who are you meeting? Like who are you seeing? Like what did you have like a whole itinerary that you kind of had planned out then beforehand, or how did you approach it?
Yeah, I did, but it was hard to keep because so it, they treated us absolutely fantastic from the very beginning, but it was a lot to kind of organize and think out like how we were going to get the band and all our gear in the festival. You were allowed like two vehicles. Um, there's a whole lot of fear, a whole bunch of pieces that we had to figure out to get us in there. So it um, kind of disrupted my schedule that I wanted to see the bands that I wanted to see. I of course wanted to see Eggy on Thursday. I didn't make it in there in enough time. They ended up playing a late night set on Thursday night as well, which I caught a little bit of that. Also wanted to see Neil Francis. Um, and that was midnight on Thursday. But I also didn't want to stay up too late. Eggy was after Neil Francis, so I went and saw a little bit of Neil Francis, and then I went over and saw a little bit of Eggy, and then I was like, I got to get in bed because I got to play tomorrow. So I didn't want to stay up too late. Um, and then Friday being the day that we played, I just kind of wanted to take it easy. I actually camped on Thursday. We had a hotel on Friday and Saturday. Um, but I went down there early so I could see some bands first. And I woke up on Friday, being one day into the festival. It's hot as hell down there, dusty. I'm like, oh my God, I need a shower. And so all the rest of the band and everybody had checked into the hotel. So I was like, I'm coming back to the hotel. I'm going to get a shower. And they were sending a shuttle for us and our gear to bring us in. So I'm so glad I came back and I rode the shuttle in with the band, and it was just an awesome, awesome experience. Us riding into Bonnaroo and the shuttle that they sent for us, and it was very cool. But so yeah, I went back, got a shower, got all clean, and yeah, we rode the shuttle in together. It was super cool. So we get there, and one of the bands that I had not heard of that I just happened to like start listening to because I wanted to check out a couple of the bands that I didn't know. Um, there was this band on the same stage on the Who stage, Monrovia, and this guy is so great. I mean, you got to check him out if you have. But he was on the Who stage. I'd never heard of him. I started listening to him, and I just fell in love with his music. Turns out, when the shuttle brings us in to the festival on Friday, we unload all our stuff, and he's the one playing on the Who stage. And I walk out there, and his music is so like touching, like moving, meaningful, and it was like my hair is standing up right now. It was like the most surreal experience. Like I just unloaded all my gear. He was on stage. I was looking out into the crowd, listening to him. There were people crying, and it was just very like moving moment. And I'm sitting there watching this happen, listening to him, thinking, I'm getting ready to play Bonnaroo here in just a couple hours. It was very surreal, and yeah, I had a moment there for sure.
I don't know if you caught Glastonbury was this weekend over in England, and
Okay, yeah,
yeah, so Coldplay headlined Saturday night, and I guess on the BBC like they were streaming it, so yeah, we caught some clips, but they did "Fix You," which is one of their like more famous songs, and they brought out Michael J. Fox, and Michael
Oh,
J. Fox
nice.
was in a wheelchair, and
Oh,
he played guitar in the wheelchair. Like
oh,
it was like I was
that's
bawling. Like I was
oh, that's
bawling.
so awesome.
It
That's
was,
so
it really
awesome.
was. Yeah. And like the
Yeah.
whole crowd had like the wristbands like that lit up.
Uh-huh.
So like it, it's amazing. You need to watch it on YouTube. But
Yeah, I'll check that
uh,
out.
so you signed, so obviously your wife is your manager, which is amazing. But let's
Yeah.
talk about your relationship with David and how that came about with Mint Talent. I'm familiar with Mint Talent, but the audience isn't. So talk about how
Okay.
that relationship came about.
Well, how it first started, like the seeds, the seeds were planted. There was this relics conference going on in Nashville, and Colleen saw something about it. She's like, I think this would be very like beneficial for me to go to. She started reading on it a little bit. It was just all about the industry, like you could go to seminars and learn different things about the music industry.
Kind of like Tavis.
So yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so the more she read on it, she was like, I think this would be very beneficial for like the whole crew to go. So yes, Houseplant paid for Colleen, Rachel, Noah, and BJ all to go down to this Relics conference and see what they can learn about the industry. And so they were sitting in this one seminar, and Noah, who's our videographer, he he stood up and asked a question. I have no idea what he even asked, but he was like, "Hi, I'm Noah. I work for this band, Houseplant," and went on with his question. So happens that David Lemontani was there in the audience, and it just caught his ear. I don't know if it was, Noah's question or just this band Houseplant that he hadn't heard of, or what it was. But he made a note of it, and he started checking us out and watching us. Watching our social media stuff, watching our videos, listening to our music, and next thing, I guess it was a couple months after that, but we get an email, I guess it was, from him saying that he works for Mint Talent Agency, and he's a booking agent, and he would very much like to talk to us about him, us signing on with Mint and him booking gigs for us. So yeah, we ended up having a video call with him, and he gave us his sales pitch. It didn't take it didn't take much. Actually, he talked to Colleen and I first, and then I went to the band and I was like, guys, like um, there's Mint Talent Agency. I went and looked at the roster. I mean, their roster's amazing.
Crazy. Yeah.
Neil Francis is on there. The Allman Brothers. I mean, they just got like all kinds of oodles and oodles of top names, and I was like, "Are you kidding me? This agency wants to sign Houseplant?" And it didn't take much. Well, I guess there was some talking with the band, like how much are they going to expect us to play? Like we can't stretch it too much further, and we just had a honest conversation with David, that we're not going to be out on tour. We're not going to play a whole lot of gigs. We'll do what we can, and anyway, we decided that this was the right move for us, and so yeah, he started booking gigs for us. I think September of
Three.
23.
Yeah.
Okay. That was the start of Houseplant with Mint.
And then you also became a Nugs artist Just
Yeah,
what, last month, right? Or 2 months ago?
sometime
May.
in that time range.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm terrible
I
with dates and all that. Some time ago, yeah, it wasn't
yeah,
long ago.
yeah.
But yes, another thing that just blows my mind that, it's like Bonnaroo and Nugs and like, yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely over the moon about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, what was that like conversation like with Nugs, or did your wife handle most of that then?
Well, she handled the correspondence, but Nugs is um it's tough to get on there. We had hit them up several times and didn't hear anything back. Um, I think it was a year before we actually signed on that we'd been emailing them. I would hit them up on Twitter, like tag them in hey Nugs, like other people would comment on Twitter. I'm not getting Nugs till they get Houseplant on there, and I would say, hey Nugs, check this out. But
That's hilarious. That's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, David one of his other bands that he represents. He had just been in contact with Nugs, got them on there. He's like, well, I have a contact. Maybe I'll get you all in connected there, and you all take it from there. So yeah, he got Colleen in contact with the person there at Nugs, and we had a little meeting with him first. This was right around the first of the year. He's like, things are kind of hectic right now. Why don't we wait till after the first of the year and we'll um, see how the growth is, see how you're all doing. I mean, we're still pretty small, and yeah, he was just, I guess, seeing how things were going with this, and so the next call that we had with him sometime late January, um, we knew we have this second call with Nugs. We're all, Colleen and I both, preparing, nervous for it and everything. And we get on the phone call and he's like, yeah, sure. I'm going to send you some paperwork. Let's get this done. I mean, the phone call was like 30 seconds long. He's like, you're all signed. You're done. We'll get you on there. Um, so yeah, it was 30 seconds. It was over. We hung up. We're like, we're going to be on Nugs. And yeah, another thing that just absolutely blew my mind. But
So
so
can you share then how do they like, do you get an like upfront paid, or is it per like listen, or how does that work, like the pay structure with Nugs?
yeah, no, it's you get it's not as small of a percentage as say like Spotify. They pay a little better than Spotify or Apple Music, but yeah, you get fractions of you get paid per stream.
So it is a similar model as like these other platforms. I wasn't sure how that structure was. Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah,
Okay.
paid per stream.
Interesting. Um, so you are also playing Floyd Fest this year.
Yeah.
I don't need to ask you how that came about, but like, are you familiar with the festival, and like, what is that lineup this year? Like, who were the headliners?
Um, yeah, I'm not familiar with Floyd Fest. I've never been to the festival. I've seen the name around, but I'm not too familiar with it. I know on this year's lineup we have J Rad's on there, Maggie Rose is on there, um, Circles Around the Sun, one of my favorite bands. I'm super excited to see them. Another great band. I love the Boa Boys. Boa Boys are they're much more in the indie scene, but they're from here in Louisville. So I just saw them play a couple weeks ago. But I love the Boa Boys, and they're playing as well. So yeah, there's a nice little lineup that I'm eager to check out while I'm there.
So my ignorance is going to make me sound silly here, but Louisville bands and artists that have come out, other than My Morning Jacket, that's the only one that I can think of. Who else that I'm missing?
Um, Houndmouth is Louisville area. They're actually from New Albany, right across the river. So you got
Fantastic band.
yeah,
So good.
Houndmouth is great. I love My Morning Jacket too. One of my favorite bands. Um, let's see who else from Louisville. You got and then smaller bands like in the more in the jam scene that we were talking about earlier. You got Electric Garden, and you got Hot Brown Smackdown, you got Mr. Please. Um, a lot of these bands are, you know, playing here in Louisville and like have so much to do with our our music scene. Um, I mentioned the Boa Boys. Yeah, I'm kind of drawing blanks at
That's fine.
there.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh, you ever heard of White Reaper?
Oh yeah,
White
absolutely.
Reapers from Louisville. I
Oh
love
yeah.
that. They're a little more the punk scene.
Their last
Got an
album is
edge to.
fantastic.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I mean I love all their albums, but yeah, that's another great band from
Okay.
Louisville.
Nice. Okay.
Um, yeah,
All right. So we got some good talent coming out of that city.
yeah.
So you guys, let's move to August. You're supporting Humphreys McGee and Aggie. Now, is that the same show or different shows then?
Yeah, it's the same show. It's a three-band bill at Everwise Amphitheater up in Indianapolis. I saw Goose there few weeks ago, and I've been to that amphitheater a few times, and it is it's new, it's a great amphitheater. I love it, and yeah, it blows my mind that I get to play there as well.
Is that a pretty big stage then, comparable to like other amphitheaters?
Oh yeah, yeah, it's a big stage. I think the venue holds maybe 6,000 or so. Um, Yeah, but a big stage. We also played Hookahville just a little while ago, and that's up at Legend Valley, and that's one of the biggest stages I've ever seen. Most definitely the biggest stage I've ever played on. I don't think it's quite that big, but it's a big stage there everywhere. So
That's Humphreys is one band that I've not really given much attention to, not because by choice, just because, like there's a lot of music out there.
yeah, yeah.
What's your history with Humphreys?
That's funny you asked that. So there there's this there was it's not around anymore. Bluegrass Brewing Company, micro brewery here in Louisville from way back in the day. They used to have bands there, and I back in around 2000, I was playing in this band called Sabrosa Red, and Bluegrass Brewing Company booked Humphreys McGee at the Bluegrass Brewing Company. That was pretty early in the Humphreys days. So I mean, they were still playing. I think they played the Bluebird up in Bloomington, and playing smaller places. But I think the BBC was probably one of the smaller places they were playing at that time. It was a pretty big deal that they were coming, and my band Sabrosa Red somehow was asked to open up. So I have opened up for Humphreys before. Um, what's funny is I played the gig and had another gig after that. So we played it and left, and I didn't even watch Humphreys. But so yeah, this second time around, opened up for Humphreys will be a little bit different than that first time.
So are you going to ask them if you have the chance to talk to them? Like, hey, like, do you remember us playing with you?
Oh yeah, yeah. I can't
Yeah.
wait to tell them that. Hey, this is the second time I've opened up for you, and who knows if they'll remember that or not. That was, I think it was like it was probably 2001 or early 2000s. So that's quite a while ago. They've played a lot of gigs since then, so
Yeah.
they probably won't remember.
So let's talk about your first EP that you released this past Tuesday, Vibrations of Night. Talk about the album title, and talk about the album itself and what the process.
Yeah. Vibrations of Night is a line in one of the songs. It has three songs on it: Firefly Part One, Part Two, and then Octopus. And we have some vinyl already in production. Vinyl these days it takes forever to get, so I think we'll actually have them in hand mid to late August. But digitally, yeah, it's out there. And so a couple years ago, we started recording an album, and we ended up putting a few singles out there that they're out there you can listen to now. But it was supposed to be an album originally, and then we were young as far as a band. I think we developed our sound a little more. We got better. We developed the songs. So I just kind of we as a band, I kind of pitched it at the band. I was like, well, what do you think if we re-record these songs? I think we could do them much better. Let's give it another run. And so we had another recording session. Octopus was supposed to be on that first album that didn't come to be. Firefly Part One and Part Two wasn't going to be on the actual album, but we were going to have an EP with just Firefly Part One and Part Two. But we had the recording session, re-recorded all those songs. We have a handful of others that will be on a later album, but someone threw out the idea of releasing this EP with Firefly Part One, Part Two, and Octopus being like a kind of an animal creature kind of EP theme. Yes.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and so the LP that should come out here a few months down the road, it's going to be much more kind of your typical song, much more song oriented type album, shorter songs. These songs on this EP are three of our bigger, more lengthy jammy type songs. So Octopus is one side of the vinyl. It's 20 minutes long. Firefly Part One and Part Two, that's 20 minutes long. So it was just, I thought it worked well as an EP to put those songs together.
So the track listing of an album, how important is that to you as a jam band? And also, like, I think it's a great idea to do it like the way you're saying, because I feel like, especially with jam bands, the studio albums, they're just kind of foundations for like these songs then live. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. You almost have to, well, we do. You don't have to do anything. Um, but when you're in the studio as a jam band, we try to rethink the songs, kind of come up with a different arrangement that would be a little more friendly for an album. Um, Even these songs on this EP, as lengthy as they are, 20 minutes each. We didn't stretch out the jams. Like we condensed them to get them under 20 minutes for each side, specifically for the vinyl, so we could have one vinyl and have 20 minutes on each side. So yeah, kind of rethought, restructured those songs even. Um, I, I think there are a lot of um, jam bands that struggle when they Fish has always not been known as a studio band. Like any album that they've put out, like some people say it falls, short or a little flat or whatever. I think they've gotten better over the years at it. I mean, they're freaking phenomenal musicians. I love Fish. But some of the earlier albums were, they were good, but they didn't really capture what Fish is capable of capturing. So there's just always been that kind of reputation for jam bands not to develop or not to deliver the best product when it comes to studio albums.
Yeah. So how much did that come into play then when you were recording this album or when you put this album out?
Well, as I mentioned, Tommy, before being kind of, he's a huge Fish fan as well, but he has a little more of a indie side to him. Tommy and he and I write all our songs, and then he and I get together for little sessions, and we kind of bounce ideas off each other and develop those songs. Tommy is, I mean, he's an incredibly smart guy. He's incredibly talented. But that was one thing that he really wanted to do, is like make a really like a good studio album. So that's been a vision and a goal of ours from the beginning. And I think that's one of why we decided to re-record the initial tracks, is we just want it to be good, and hopefully it is. We'll see. But
Well, and I think naturally just being together as a band and playing, and the more and more you play together, you would hope that obviously you're going to be better. So yeah, it's
yeah. And we were young as a band. We hadn't been playing together for very long. So I think our sound kind of grew and developed pretty quickly over those first couple years.
so other than Floyd Fest, then obviously Bonnaroo's in the past. What do your fans have for tour wise for at least July, for this month and for August, and for whatever you can announce then?
Um, let's see, what can I announce? Um, let's see here.
Yeah, bring up the old.
Um, yeah, so yeah, we have Floyd Fest, so that's going to be great. We have two days slotted there, two sets. Um, what day is this airing?
Will be Friday, this Friday. So
Fridays.
the
So yeah,
5th. Yeah.
we're playing tonight.
Nice. Where are we playing?
Yeah, we're playing Friday over in New Albany at the Enchanted Forest, and that's a really cool venue across the river in New Albany. can't wait to do that. That's kind of like our little release for our EP.
Yeah.
Then Floyd
Enchanted
Fest.
Forest, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Look that
Okay.
place up and check out some of the pictures. It's really cool. They have like trees growing out of the stage and it has this LED backdrop screen. And it's just really, really cool venue. I love playing there.
Okay.
Check it out.
Independent, obviously, right?
I'm sorry.
Independent then, not Live Nation owned?
No, yeah, it's actually it's a restaurant brew pub and then out back they have this just big open space. I mean, it could hold up to 1,000 people. Um, have cool little psychedelic decorations everywhere. It's just yeah, it's a cool place. So.
So what is your favorite music venue to play in Louisville?
Um, Melwood has always been home.
Yeah.
That was they had her first gig there. I've known the owners for a long time. I went to high school with Pat, and I've known Scott for even longer than that. Yeah, so they're just really cool people and very supportive of the music scene. So Melwood's always been home. Um, and then Headliners Music Hall, Billy Hardison has been huge help. Been a resource for Houseplant from the very beginning. He's the owner of Headliners. Um, yeah, two of the coolest places that we have here for sure.
Yeah. And you also have the Bourbon and Beyond Festival, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Have you gone to that personally? Because I mean, the lineups have been just incredible, like really, really well done.
Yeah, I've been to several of the Bourbon and Beyonds. It used to be at a park. It was a little more grassy and shaded, and now it's out at the fairgrounds, which is kind of a big concrete jungle. And I mean, it's still great, but it could stand a little in the vibe department. But you know, it's a fantastic lineup. And I can't wait to see Beck and so many. Neil Young just dropped. I was really excited to see Neil Young there. Have never ever seen Neil Young live. So I was really stoked about that, but he unfortunately had to drop out. But Beck's gonna kick some ass.
Yeah, I saw Neil Young when when Farm Aid came to Hershey about that's a while ago, at least 8 years ago, and he played the entire set. It was just like feedback and noise, and not one song like that was like anything popular. It was so
Yeah,
disappointing.
yeah. Well, nobody's gonna tell Neil what to do. He's gonna do whatever Neil wants to do. So yeah,
Yes, that is correct. But Grace Potter played that Farm Aid, and man, I don't know if you're a fan of Grace Potter, but her last album is just fantastic. Mother Road. Oh my God, so good.
nice.
Yeah. So, well, my friend, thank you so much for doing this. Yeah, it's so Bonnaroo now has been it's been 2 weeks, right? Yeah.
Yeah, 2 weeks. It's
It's you're still buzzing.
I am. I am. I'll never get over it. My son, I've got three sons, two of them a little bit older than the youngest. The two older ones are 19 and 21. And I think this is their third year they've gone to Bonnaroo. They get Bonnaroo tickets for Christmas every year. And when they found out that I was going to be playing, I was like the coolest dad in the whole entire world. But Rowan, my oldest son, he texted me the other night just out of the blue. This was just like a couple days ago. He's like, I can't believe you played Bonnaroo. It still doesn't seem real, just yeah. They think Dad's pretty cool, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that's a roller coaster, isn't it? Sometimes you are,
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah, yeah.
you're not. So are any of the kids of the band members like musically inclined, or any of them playing instruments?
Um, Jeremy, his son plays saxophone. I don't know as if any of the other ones play, but all my kids play music. They've gone through. There's a program here in Louisville called the Louisville Leopard Percussionist, and it's a fantastic program. They've all three gone through that. Scout, my youngest, he plays bass, and Rush is his favorite band in the whole entire world, and he likes. I mean, he's a monster on the bass, but he likes very technical prog rock stuff, complicated stuff. He can, yeah, more complicated than I can play. So, but yeah, all three of them play music. All three of them were talented.
So I did want to ask you about, because you had mentioned this earlier in the conversation. So being a drummer for as long as you have, is it tough not being the drummer in this band, or like in any band that you aren't the drummer?
um, it it can be, yeah. Like Jeremy, poor guy has to, you know, hear my opinion on what I think he should do, and he's a fantastic drummer. And yeah, drums are such a huge part of a song, and the feel of the song and the vibe that, um, to me, it's the most crucial part. I mean, the rhythm, and um, it just gives the song its identity. And so, yes, me being a drummer, I can be very opinionated on what the drums should be doing.
I wonder if that's how Dave Grohl was with Taylor Hawkins. Like, you
Yeah,
ever think about
yeah.
that? Like,
I, I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. I mean, Dave Grohl played drums in one of the biggest rock bands of all time, and yeah, then he switched it up and became the front man, and yeah, I'm sure he he probably wrote some of those drum parts. I'm sure.
I'm wondering that if he might have known that, and that's why he got somebody of like the talent that Taylor was. I mean, like Taylor Hawkins was fantastic as a drummer. So like, I
Yeah,
wonder if that did come in, play, that he knew that, you know, that might
yeah, and
cause some
and
trouble.
maybe his personality had something to do with it as well. Like, Dave probably knew that he had to get the right personality in there to be able to listen to his opinion on what the drum should be doing.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, it's Dave Grohl's band. They might be called
Yeah,
the Foo
yeah,
Fighters, but it's his
yeah.
band. Well, again, Tavis, thank you so much for doing this. The best of luck and much love to the band and all the success that you guys hopefully continue to have. Yeah, I like I said to you before, I just get, when I listen to your music, I just get lost, and I love that, because not a lot of music does that for me. Like, I'm always critiquing, and I'm always like, analyzing, and for some reason, like, I just get lost, and I love that. So thank
Well,
you
thank you
for,
very much. Thanks for saying that.
yeah, man, absolutely. So everybody, again, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe to our YouTube channel, our social media pages. That helps us. That helps the bands like Houseplant that we feature. Also, check out our sponsor, RAR Outfitters. That's RAWR, outfitters.com. Don't just wear RAR. So, as always, ladies and gentlemen, I've been Dogg. You've been great. This is the Music Lab podcast.